you look at Luke chapter 14, Jesus is teaching there that we should associate with all kinds of people. We should have friends among outcasts and so forth. And at the end of 14, verse 35, Jesus says simply, he who has ears to hear, let him hear. Chapter 15, verse 1, that Jesus was associating or was allowing tax collectors and sinners to gather around him, and the Pharisees were muttering, this man welcomes with sinners and eats with them. Suppose one of you had 100 sheep, and at the end of the day, you came back and had 99. Wouldn't you look for the lost sheep? There's rejoicing in heaven when one sinner who repents. Suppose, Jesus says, that you have 10 coins. Now what we have to do is get rid of quarters in our mind here. And so, as a rough and ready analogy, you have in your wallet 10 $100 bills. I didn't spend a cent, but I only have 9 $100 bills. You would seek for that lost $100 bill until you found it. That's all I'm doing, Jesus. I'm just looking for lost things that are valuable. And there is rejoicing in the presence of the angels of God over every sinner who repents. That's all I'm doing. And certainly, a good father would seek and welcome a lost son. And so we get the story that we come to know as the parable of the prodigal son. I prefer to call it the parable of the lost sons, because there are two sons who get lost in this particular parable. Now we know the first son very well. We call him the prodigal. I'm going to call him the unrighteous son. The unrighteous son has a certain perspective on life. He is tired of life at home. He is tired of the farm, its predictable course. And so he says to his father, please give me my share of the inheritance. Now you understand what he's saying here, don't you? He's saying, Dad, it's too bad you're not dead yet. But let's pretend you are and give me the money now. And off he goes, as you know, with his money. Sinfully, he abuses his inheritance. He takes that, he squanders it in wild living, and as swiftly, without money, then comes a famine. Then he is in physical need. So great is his need that the only occupation he can find as a Jew is swine herding. So low has he sunk, he looks at the food that the pigs are eating and longs for that. He came to himself in verse 17. He says, first, even the hired hands in my father's household have food to spare, and I'm starving to death. But he realizes that his problem is not simply that of a lack of food. He says, I'm going to set out to my father and say, Father, I've sinned against heaven and against you. I'm no longer worthy to be called your son. Let me be like one of the hired men. He understands that he has sinned against God and against man. Sees it not simply as something that's burdensome to him, not just as something he's suffering, but as an objective misdeed. He goes. The father sees him coming from a distance and welcomes him. He sees his son, and the son starts to give his words. The words are, Father, I'm no longer worthy to be called your son. I've sinned against heaven and against you. That's what he's going to say. But he only gets halfway through. Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I'm no longer worthy to be called your son. But the father doesn't even let him go on to the next phrase. Or if he says it, he overrules it. Because what happens in the next scene is that he's reestablished as son. Bring the best robe, give him decent clothes. Put sandals on his feet, because slaves and the poorest of the poor went about barefoot. Get sandals on his feet so his status is clear. Give him the ring, which would be the signet ring, and bring the fattened calf, almost as if he's saying, you know the one I mean, the best. We will celebrate because this son of mine was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found. In phase 2, we now have a self-righteous son. And this son overhears the party. And he wonders, he pulls some poor servant over and says, what's going on? And the answer is, your brother is back healthy, safe and sound, and they've slaughtered the fattened calf for him. And the custom of the day would certainly require him to go in out of love, but also, as the older brother, he would be responsible to participate and perhaps even lead in the festivities. But he won't go. Verse 28, the father went out and pleaded, or was pleading with him, and then he gives his father an answer. The answer is, look, all these years I've been slaving for you and never disobeyed your order. Yet you never gave me even a young goat so I could celebrate with my friends. But when this son of yours who has squandered your property with prostitutes comes home, you kill the fattened calf for him. It's not fair. Can you resonate with this guy? And then notice what he says. He says, all these years I've been slaving. Now, there's a lot of words you can use. You could call it serving, working. He chooses the word slaving. What does that make the father? Slave driver. And never once did I transgress one of your commands. Now that's self-righteous. And you know the problem is, he just broke one of the commands 10 seconds earlier when he addressed his father. Look, he pities himself. You never gave me a goat. He also exaggerates. He disowns his brother. The father is as gentle as the boy is rude. He returns dignity for indignity. My son, my child, you are always with me. All that I have is yours. If you want a goat, if you want 5 goats, take them. It's all yours. But it was necessary for us to rejoice. This your brother, and he is your brother. He's not just my son. This your brother was dead and has come to life again, was lost and has been found. What happens at the end of the story? We don't know. Why not? Who does the Father stand for? God, and also Jesus, because Jesus seeks lost people. Who is the younger brother, the prodigal son, the unrighteous brother? Who is he? He's the pagans. They're the sinners. The people Jesus has been eating with. Who is the older brother? The Pharisees. Would the Pharisees agree with that? No, they wouldn't want to do that. So what I think Jesus does actually is tell the story in a way so that they can say, that's kind of like me, but it's not me. And so they have to decide, would they come in? Would they really want to be like that? And you've got to, no, wouldn't like to be like this. So come on in. Well, there's only one problem. To come in, you've got to come into the party. You've got to go into the place where the sinners are. And that's what they don't want to do. And so they're going to vacillate. I've tried to say the 2 sons are the unrighteous son and the self-righteous son. Both sons are sinners. They sin in different ways. The church is the only organization in which you have to demonstrate your lack of merit to join. It's the one place you have to say, in order to get in, you must admit yourself to be a sinner and unworthy. Do that and you're in. There's even a warning to the poor and the outcast that they not become proud that they're poor and outcasts. But the parable does end with God inviting one more time the rich and those who have status in. Parable describes a father who is unbelievably gracious to 2 sons.